I'm Nova.
I'm Alloy, and this is AgentStack Daily.
The terminal-based coding agent OpenAI Codex 0.142 shipped as the new stable, adding usage limit reset credits, organizing plugins into curated and workspace surfaces, and tightening long runs with configurable rollout token budgets. It also tracks usage across agent threads, shows remaining budget reminders, and aborts a turn when the configured budget is exhausted instead of letting an unattended session drift past the boundary.
Today, Codex 0.142 leads the agent harness readout. OpenAI Daybreak pairs Codex security with GPT 5.5 Cyber. Samsung rolls ChatGPT Enterprise and Codex into a global workforce. Nex-N2-P lands on OpenRouter as a large multimodal MO. SQLite Utils 4.0 release candidate adds migrations and nested transactions. And Alma 3010 expands the local Mac model lane.
The production layer is getting more concrete. Agent loops now have budgets, plugin review surfaces, security validation, enterprise deployment patterns, and better model routing. That is the shape builders need for longer-running work. Configure the boundary, wire the right tools, route the model deliberately, and keep the human in the review loop instead of the prompt loop.
OpenAI shipped Codex 0.142 as the first stable release on the .142 line. The change that matters most is hard-bounded execution. Codex now tracks usage across agent threads, surfaces remaining budget reminders, and can abort a turn when a configured rollout token budget is exhausted. For the terminal-based coding agent, that moves a long session from hope the cap holds to the harness has a visible stop condition.
The second piece is recovery when a usage limit gets in the way. The /usage command can show and redeem earned usage limit reset credits, with confirmation, retry, and refreshed availability states. In practice, a Codex run that hits a mid-session limit has a path to recover inside the same session instead of stalling on a global timer.
Plugin handling also gets more production-shaped. The /plugin surface now groups remote plugins into OpenAI curated, workspace, and shared with me. Eligible turns can recommend and install relevant plugins from that grouped surface, which gives the agent a more reviewable path for adding capability during a run.
The builder impact is straightforward. Overnight Codex work is more realistic. A long refactor, migration, or issue sweep needs budget boundaries and controlled tool expansion. Codex 0.142 adds those controls at the agent surface, not as an external wrapper, which makes the session easier to supervise and easier to resume.
OpenAI launched Daybreak, a security initiative built around Codex security and GPT 5.5 Cyber. Codex security is the agent loop for vulnerability discovery, validation, and patch proposal. GPT 5.5 Cyber is the specialized model trained for cybersecurity reasoning, with emphasis on exploitability and whether a patch actually closes the path that created the bug.
The mechanism matters because AI security tooling often fails at the second step. Finding a suspicious pattern is useful, but the hard part is proving the exploit path, proposing a fix, and checking that the fix did not just hide the symptom. Daybreak puts a dedicated cyber model behind that validation step, then routes the result into review before disclosure.
For teams wiring security agents into build pipelines, that changes the product shape. A generic coding model can scan, explain, and patch, but it may overfit to the visible error. A cyber-tuned model in the loop can reason about exploit class, attack preconditions, and regression risk with more domain pressure.
The claim still needs proof in disclosure cadence. The signal to watch is not how polished the launch sounds, it is how many findings get responsibly validated, patched, and accepted by maintainers over the next quarter. If that flow works, Daybreak becomes a reference pattern for AI-assisted coordinated disclosure.
Patch the Planet is the companion program aimed at open-source security repair. The target is the long tail, widely used projects with volunteer maintainers, uneven triage capacity, and dependencies that quietly sit inside thousands of builder stacks. OpenAI is positioning the program as maintainer-first rather than a drive-by patch machine.
The maintainer path is consent first. A project enters the program only when its maintainers bring it in, and the AI assistance is aimed at triage, exploit reasoning, and patch proposals that a human expert can inspect. OpenAI supplies model time and the review surface, while maintainers still decide what lands, when it lands, and how it fits the project.
That distinction is important. Security automation gets messy when outside agents flood maintainers with noisy patches or speculative reports. Patch the Planet is more interesting if it reduces that burden, fewer duplicate reports, more validated exploit paths, and patch proposals that arrive with reasoning a maintainer can inspect.
For builders, the downstream benefit is supply chain hardening. Agent stacks lean on a deep open source base, parsers, runtimes, web frameworks, model clients, task queues, and SQLite helpers. If even a slice of that base gets faster vulnerability repair, the reliability of deployed agent systems improves without every app team becoming a security research group.
Samsung Electronics is rolling out ChatGPT Enterprise and Codex to its global workforce, making it one of OpenAI's largest enterprise deployments. The important signal is the pairing, a broad assistant for knowledge work next to a coding agent inside a company that spans phones, chips, displays, manufacturing systems, internal platforms, and software tooling.
That makes the integration work much deeper than chat access. Codex has to operate inside permission boundaries, source access rules, review policies, audit trails, and internal knowledge systems. A coding agent inside Samsung is not just generating snippets, it is touching workflows where software changes can connect to hardware programs and manufacturing operations.
The reference pattern matters for other large employers. Once a company at Samsung scale sanctions ChatGPT Enterprise and Codex, buyers can point to a real deployment shape, enterprise identity, controlled repository access, review gates, and teams using the assistant as sanctioned infrastructure rather than a side tool.
The risk is uneven integration quality. A global rollout can still leave individual teams with different levels of access, training, and governance. The useful pattern is narrow by default: wire Codex to the right repos, issue trackers, and review steps, then expand privileges based on observed value rather than enthusiasm.
Nex-AGI listed Nex-N2-P on OpenRouter, giving builders API access to a new agentic mixture of experts model. The headline shape is 17 billion active parameters out of 397 billion total, built on Qwen 3.5, with native text and image input and a 262,000 token context window.
The distribution path is almost as important as the model spec. Because Nex-N2-P is exposed through OpenRouter, a team can add it as a target behind an existing model router. That means no separate vendor integration just to compare behavior. You can route a coding agent session to it, watch traces, and compare output against the models already in the stack.
The real test is agent behavior, not the parameter count. Mixture of experts capacity can help, but builders need to see tool selection, recovery after wrong turns, vision handling, and long context coherence when a session includes code, requirements, logs, and prior decisions. A giant context window only helps if the model keeps the relevant state active.
Treat Nex-N2-P as a candidate, not a default. The first good signals will come from real sessions, a visual bug report, a multi-step refactor, or a long planning thread where the model has to keep constraints straight. If it performs there, it becomes a serious routing option for multimodal agent work.
SQLite Utils 4.0 release candidate brings two important additions for local and edge agent apps: schema migrations and nested transactions. SQLite Utils already gives Python developers a higher-level interface for SQLite, including table transformations and automatic table creation from JSON-shaped payloads. The release candidate turns schema evolution into a first-class part of that layer.
Migrations are the headline because SQLite keeps showing up in serious agent workflows. Local evaluation harnesses, personal automations, desktop apps, and edge deployments often use SQLite as the state layer because it is fast and easy to ship. When the schema changes, builders need a predictable upgrade path instead of scattered setup logic.
Nested transactions solve a different pain point. Agent workflows often perform a chain of related writes: create a run, add tool events, update status, attach eval results, and recover if a substep fails. When helper functions need transactional behavior inside a larger transaction, Nesting gives the app more precise control over partial operations.
The caution is the release candidate status. SkleitUtils 4.0 release candidate is a preview of the 4.0 API, not something to blindly wire into a production migration path. But it is a strong signal that SQLite tooling for builder stacks is maturing beyond prototypes and into maintainable local infrastructure.
iOS 27 is pushing practical AI into Mail, Photos, Notes, and Spotlight instead of concentrating the narrative on Siri. Apple's approach leans on on-device foundation models for most requests, with private cloud compute as the fallback when heavier work is needed.
The developer surface is app intents. New intent types for summarization, generation, and semantic search let apps expose behavior to the system AI layer without every developer running a separate model backend. That is the platform play. The model is part of the operating system, and apps wire actions into it.
Spotlight may be the most useful change. Local vector embeddings move search beyond keywords, so natural language queries can reach notes, photos, mail, and app content. If the experience works, the iPhone becomes more like a private retrieval system than a launcher with a search box.
The open question is how much runtime access third-party developers get. A narrow app intent surface gives Apple privacy and consistency, but limits experimentation. A broader surface would make iOS a serious deployment target for privacy-first AI features that do not need cloud serving by default.
SpaceX signed a compute agreement with Reflection AI, an open-source AI lab, reportedly worth $150 million per month from July 1, 2026 through 2029. Reflection gets access to NVIDIA GB300 AI chips and supporting hardware in SpaceX's Colossus 2 data center near Memphis.
The scale is the story. A $150 million monthly commitment over multiple years gives Reflection the kind of training and serving runway that open-source labs rarely secure in one block. GB300 access also places the lab on current top-end NVIDIA silicon rather than a patchwork of older capacity.
For infrastructure watchers, this validates SpaceX's NeoCloud push. Colossus 2 is not just internal capacity if outside AI labs are committing at that level. It starts to look like a sustained layer in the AI infrastructure market, not a hyperscaler, not a small GPU broker, but a specialized high-end provider.
The builder implication is more routing choice over time. If NeoCloud capacity becomes durable, model teams and application builders get more options for training, fine-tuning, and inference. The market becomes less dependent on a handful of hyperscalers, especially for teams that can tolerate newer provider surfaces in exchange for capacity.
Grok confirmed a $650 million raise and is rebuilding after NVIDIA's $20 billion non-acqui-hire arrangement. The strategic frame is a NeoCloud pivot built around Grok's LPU inference silicon, which is designed for high-throughput, low-latency serving.
The mechanism is not replace GPUs everywhere. Grok is strongest where serving speed, predictable latency, and supported model coverage line up. The NeoCloud business packages that capability for teams that do not want to buy and operate Grok hardware directly.
Alongside the SpaceX and Reflection deal, Grok's raise points to fragmentation at the top end of inference. Builders are getting more specialized providers, each with different latency, cost, model support, and integration trade-offs. That gives routing layers more to optimize than just one default cloud target.
The practical watch item is model coverage. If Grok keeps adding first-class support for the models builders actually deploy, it becomes a meaningful serving option for latency-sensitive agent workloads. If support stays narrow, it remains useful but more specialized.
The loopy agent pattern is moving into production language. Instead of a single agent that runs only when a human prompts it, a swarm of agents works continuously in the background, picking up tasks, making small decisions, and escalating only when human judgment is needed.
The architecture is a controlled autonomy envelope. Each agent has a defined scope, a cost budget, and an escalation rule. The user moves out of the synchronous prompt response loop and into a result review loop, where the morning check-in becomes the human checkpoint.
That shift changes what the stack needs. A loopy deployment needs a heartbeat, audit trail, kill switch, budget view, and clear authority boundaries. It behaves more like a managed service than a chat tool. The agent is not waiting for attention, it is using limited autonomy to make progress.
Codex 0.142's rollout token budgets fit this pattern. They are not the whole system, but they are one required layer, cost control inside long-running work. The first strong individual builder product in this category will likely look less like a chat window and more like a small operations console for personal agent swarms.
On the GitHub project radar, Grab's Cursor Talk to Figma MCP gives MCP-compatible agents a tool surface into Figma. Cursor, the terminal-based AI coding agent Claude Code, Codex, and other agentic clients can read design structure and modify it programmatically instead of guessing at spacing, color tokens, or component names from a screenshot.
The integration angle is the design-to-code loop. A front-end agent can inspect a Figma component, map it to the implementation, and push a visual change back into the design system. That makes Figma less like a static reference and more like a typed interface for UI work.
The real value is reducing translation loss. Product design, component naming, and front-end implementation often drift apart. An MCP bridge gives the agent a shared surface where design intent and code changes can meet under review.
Firecrawl's official MCP server exposes web scraping and search to agent clients through a clean tool interface. For Cursor, Claude, Codex, and other MCP-aware systems, that means retrieval-augmented research can be wired into the agent loop without a one-off scraper.
The builder benefit is consistency. A coding agent that needs current API guidance, package behavior, or product references can call the Firecrawl tool and get web-to-markdown output suitable for reasoning. That is much cleaner than mixing browser automation, brittle selectors, and manual fetch logic into every harness.
This is especially useful for documentation-heavy tasks. When an agent needs to compare an implementation against current vendor guidance, Firecrawl MCP turns the research step into a reusable capability that can be shared across sessions and agents.
MinishLab's Semble is a code search layer built for agents. The project claims roughly 98% fewer tokens than a grep plus read flow for the same lookup, which matters because long coding sessions often waste context reading every matched region instead of retrieving the right symbol or function quickly.
The mechanism is indexed search for the codebase. Instead of asking the agent to scan broad matches, Semble gives it a faster lookup primitive that can return more targeted context. For large repos, that reduces token burn and shortens the path from question to edit.
The integration angle is simple: put Semble next to a coding agent as the code discovery tool. If the index quality holds up on messy internal code, it can replace a lot of noisy search and read behavior with a cleaner retrieval step.
Nex-N2-P is the selected marquee model discovery. It is newly available through OpenRouter, with 262,000 tokens of context, image input, and a Qwen 3.5-based mixture of experts design using 17 billion active parameters out of 397 billion total.
The immediate builder angle is routing. Because it is on OpenRouter, teams can compare it inside existing model selection logic rather than building a separate integration. The first meaningful evaluation should use real agent traces, multimodal coding, long context planning, tool use, and recovery after a wrong turn.
Z.Re's GLM5V Turbo is also selected. It is a newly listed native multimodal agent foundation model on OpenRouter, with a 202,000 token context window and a stated focus on vision-based coding and agent-driven tasks.
The timing matters because it lands alongside Nex-N2-P and expands the OpenRouter Vision Agent surface. Builders now have another candidate for workflows where screenshots, UI states, charts, diagrams, or visual bug reports need to feed directly into an agent loop.
GPT 5.5 Cyber is tracked in model discovery as the engine behind Daybreak, but it is not treated as a standalone model routing story because its initial surface is codex security and the coordinated vulnerability workflow.
The important point is specialization. It is aimed at vulnerability discovery, exploit reasoning, and patch verification, which makes it a back-end capability for security agents rather than a general model builders can freely swap into every workload.
Ollama Point 3010 brings Cohere's Command A and the North family onto Apple Silicon through the MLX engine. It also refreshes the underlying llama.cpp build and fixes MLX build artifacts, which should make the local install path more reliable on M-series Macs.
The practical angle is local agent serving without a discrete GPU. Command A through MLX gives Mac-based builders a stronger commercial-grade model lane for multi-turn agent tasks, latency comparisons, and privacy-sensitive experimentation. The useful comparison is local responsiveness and quality against the usual cloud route on the same task.
Fika Jobs raised $4 million to build a video-first hiring platform where AI agents interview candidates. The agent angle is narrow but important. Hiring workflows are moving from resume filtering into live conversational screening, which raises the bar for auditability, bias controls, and human review.
For builders, this is a reminder that vertical agents need domain guardrails, not just a better chat layer. An interview agent must handle consent, scoring logic, escalation, and candidate experience with much more care than an internal productivity bot.
Amazon is testing Alexa Plus in India with Hindi support, which makes the assistant race more multilingual and more local. Voice agents only become useful when they handle regional language, mixed language phrasing, and household context without forcing the user into English commands.
The integration point is agent distribution. Smart speakers and phones are still massive surfaces for ambient AI, but language coverage determines whether the agent feels native or like a translated demo. Hindi support is a practical step toward broader assistant adoption in India.
A running list of 2026 tech layoffs where employers cited AI is becoming its own labor market signal. The important detail is not that every job cut is caused by automation, it is that executives are now using AI capability as part of restructuring logic.
For builder teams, that changes internal pressure. Agent tools will be judged by whether they ship measurable throughput gains, not just whether they impress developers. The healthiest deployments will pair automation with clearer review paths and new work design, rather than pretending agents are a drop-in replacement for entire teams.
Codex 0.142 makes long agent runs more bounded with reset credits, grouped plugins, and rollout token budgets.
Daybreak and Patch the Planet move AI-assisted security toward coordinated disclosure and maintainer-led repair.
Samsung's rollout shows coding agents becoming sanctioned enterprise infrastructure.
Nex-N2 Pro and GLM5V Turbo expand the OpenRouter surface for long-context multimodal agent evaluation.
SqliteUtils 4.0 release candidate strengthens the local SQLite layer for agent state, while Llama.3010 broadens the Mac-based local model path.
SpaceX, Reflection AI, and Grok point to a more fragmented high-end compute and inference market.
Loopy agent swarms are the pattern to watch as builders shift from prompt response tools to managed background work.
For the full source list and links behind these stories, look at the show notes at tobionfitnesstech.com. Thanks for listening to AgentStack Daily. We'll be back soon.